Hi everyone, as you all know, the Canon has just announced the R5 Mark II. However, instead of pre-ordering it, I decided to go with a different camera. But before I reveal which one, let me share the cameras I am currently using. Right now I'm recording with the Canon R5C, and for the overhead shots I have been using Canon R7, which you can see in my hand at the moment. I was set on pre-ordering the Canon R5 Mark II, but I changed my mind, and that's a story for another video. So why did I switch to this new camera to replace my Canon R7? So let's discuss that. Let me show you the camera first. So this is the camera which I bought to replace my Canon R7. So this is Canon R8. Before diving into pros and cons of both cameras, it's important to note that your choice should depend on your specific use case. I'll share my reasons, and hopefully that will help you to decide which camera suits you best. Let's quickly go through what R7 does better than R8, even though I use these cameras mainly for video. But if you are a hybrid shooter or focus more on photography, you should consider these points. The Canon R7 has a mechanical shutter compared to the R8's first curtain electronic shutter only. The Canon R7 has a much larger battery compared to the R8's battery, dual card slots on R7 versus a single slot on R8, in-body image stabilization on R7, which Canon R8 doesn't have. The R7's electronic viewfinder is much better compared to the R8's EVF. So the Canon R7 is weather sealed. On the other side, Canon hasn't mentioned weather sealing for R8, so I assume it is not weather sealed. Higher megapixel APS-C sensor on Canon R7, which can be beneficial for wildlife photography. Now let me explain why I switched from Canon R7 to R8, starting with the minor reasons and ending with the major ones. So my first reason is size and weight. Canon R8 is thinner and significantly lighter compared to R7. When it comes to height and width, there is not a huge difference, but again, it's lighter, the R8, and it's quite a bit thinner compared to R7. My second reason of switching from R7 to R8 is the button layout. Both cameras have a similar number of buttons, but I prefer the layout on R8. Unlike R7, which has a single dial for power and mode switching, the Canon R8 separates these functions, making it more convenient. And it's another thing that I don't really like this wheel at the back of R7. I much prefer the dial on the top here. As you can see, the Canon R7 doesn't have the dial on the top, but R8 has the dial. So there are two dials for exposure control. One is at the front here and one is here on the top. But on R7 there is one at the front, but instead of a dial here, there is a wheel which also you can click, and it's a joystick in the middle, and you can control the focus point. I don't really like it. Now you can say that there is no joystick at the back of R8, but I personally don't use that. I tap to focus. That's what I prefer to do. So this is, I think, a personal preference. I prefer to use tap to focus, or I use the screen to move the focus point. On the other side, if you like to use a joystick, then obviously you will prefer the system on R7. My third reason of switching is the pre-recording option. So in the video mode, the Canon R8 offers a 5-second pre-recording option, which is incredibly useful for capturing fast action or wildlife. The Canon R7 doesn't have this feature at the time of recording this video, although it might be added in future firmware updates. Now on to the major reasons of my switch. Focus breathing. So the Canon R8 has a focus breathing compensation, which is a big deal for me. When filming overhead shots with R7, the lens breathing can be very distracting, and the Canon R8 addresses this issue effectively. This is another big one, is improvement in autofocus. The autofocus on a Canon R8 is much improved, while the Canon R7's autofocus isn't bad. it's not as reliable, I'll say. I've had instances where the R7 missed focus during interviews, prioritizing objects like water bottle over the subject, even though the human subject was selected in the menu. The R8 handles this much better. So using the camera for 3-4 days, I have experienced that R8 handles autofocus much better compared to R7. The next reason of switching is 4K recording quality, or you can say the 4K recording options. The R8 records 4K at 50 or 60p downsampled from 6K, offering superior quality compared to R7's line-skipped 4K in 50 or 60p mode. Although both cameras have issue with overheating during extended 4K 60 recording, I typically don't record for long periods, so this isn't a major issue for me. But if you are somebody who records regularly for longer period of times in 4K 50 or 60p, you reconsider buying R8 and see if your climate is very hot, then don't go for this camera because it will overheat. For 10 minutes clips, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, up to 20-25 minutes clips, there is no problem. Temperature in UK at the moment is between 23-24 degrees centigrade, and I have tested the camera, and obviously it starts showing you the overheating sign, but yeah, I was able to record up to 25 minutes without any problem in 50 frames per second. Okay, the next reason, and this is the biggest reason, is the sensor in R8. Now R7 has a crop sensor. It's a higher megapixel sensor, as I said before, can be very useful in certain cases, like you are filming or taking photos of wildlife with a similar lens. It can give you an extended reach, and plus because it's a higher megapixel sensor, it's a more room for cropping. But when it comes to video recording in low lights, normally the full frame sensors, they do perform better than crop sensor cameras because they can capture more light because of their bigger size sensor. Also, the full frame sensor of R8 has a lower megapixel count compared to the cropped sensor in R7 with a higher megapixel count. So the pixels are quite a bit bigger on R8. That's why they capture more light, and the shadows are much cleaner in R8 compared to R7. At the end, because I placed the order on 16th and it was a Prime Day, and I got amazing deal on this camera. I paid only £899 in, obviously I'm in the UK, so it's in pounds, and this is almost half the recommended retail price. I think this camera goes for £1,500-1,600, and on a Prime Day I was able to buy it for $899. So if you convert it into dollars, maybe $750 or something like that, and it's a really bargain for this camera. Really good price, as I've used it for 3-4 days and I'm really happy. So now it's you are the one who's going to decide if this camera is better for you or the R7 is better for you. If you need a camera for a studio work and you are in an RF mount system, R8 offers fantastic value. However, for the client work like weddings, where dual card slots are essential for redundancy, you might want to consider the option like R6 if you want a full frame camera, or the R7 when you are doing client work. You don't really want your single SD card giving you a problem. So dual card slots, I think they are must when you're doing the client work, especially those kind of events which cannot be recreated. If you're doing like adverts or you're doing commercials and stuff, obviously you can refilm it, but the weddings and the events like that, you cannot refilm that. So you need to definitely, that's 100%. There's no way you can take this camera and start doing the client work. You need to have a redundancy recording. So in the end, please let me know about your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Which camera is better, or which camera suits you more, depending on your use case. And yeah, that's it for today. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.